Judge Raymond slams the gavel, guilty, and 16-year-old Miguel stands, deciding to risk everything as he fishes a wiped-out Samsung from his pocket. For a heartbeat, the courtroom sees only a scared boy. Miguel feels hope flicker. But that screen hides a confession that could topple fortunes. Will the resurrected pixels free his mother or bury them both? Want to know what happened? Watch until the end, and don't miss this story full of emotions and unexpected twists. Also, tell us which city you're watching from. Write it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories like this one. Guilty, announced the jury forewoman, her voice cutting through the hushed courtroom like a knife. Judge Raymond's gavel slammed down with such force that it made 65-year-old Margaret Wilson jump in her seat at the back of department. 1-4. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot, finalizing the fate of Elena Alvarez, a humble housekeeper who had maintained her innocence throughout the grueling 3-week trial. Elena Alvarez, you have been found guilty of grand larceny, Judge Raymond declared, his voice dripping with contempt. You took advantage of Mrs. Eleanor Hamilton's trust and stole a family heirloom worth over $2 million. You're a disgrace to hard-working immigrants everywhere. Elena stood frozen, her weathered hands trembling as the bailiff approached with handcuffs. From the back of the courtroom, her 16-year-old son Miguel watched in horror, clutching his frayed, navy blue hoodie to hide the tears streaming down his face. His mother had raised him alone since his father died in a construction accident 8 years ago. She had worked tirelessly, cleaning homes in the affluent neighborhoods of Westridge to put food on their table and ensure Miguel could stay in school. Your Honor, I swear to you, I did not take Mrs. Hamilton's brooch, Elena pleaded, her voice breaking. I have worked for her for 7 years. Why would I risk everything now? Judge Raymond leaned forward, his eyes cold. You'll have plenty of time to contemplate your poor choices while you rot in jail, Miss Alvarez. 7 years seems appropriate, 1 for each year you deceived the Hamilton family. The spectators gasped. 7 years was an unusually harsh sentence for a first-time offender, especially in a non-violent crime. But the Hamilton family had influence in Westridge, and the Edwardian diamond and sapphire brooch, known as the Heart of Athena, had been in their family since the 1920s. Margaret Wilson, who had worked alongside Eleanor for the Pattersons next door, shook her head in disbelief. She had known Elena for years and couldn't imagine her stealing anything, let alone something so valuable. But the evidence had seemed compelling. Elena was the only person besides Mrs. Hamilton with access to the safe, and security cameras had shown her entering the room where the safe was kept on the day of the theft. As the bailiff led Elena away, she looked back at Miguel with desperate eyes. Take care of yourself, mijijo, she called out. Call Tia Rosa. The truth will come out someday. Miguel's hand tightened around the object in his pocket, a battered old smartphone with a cracked screen. It wasn't much, but it was his mother's last hope. If what he suspected was true, the real thief might have left evidence on this discarded phone that Miguel had found while raking leaves in the Hamiltons' garden the day after his mother's arrest. As people began filing out of the courtroom, Assistant District Attorney Marshall Kane approached the Hamilton family, shaking hands with Eleanor Hamilton's son, Blake, a handsome 30-something with expensive tastes and, rumor had it, mounting gambling debts. Justice has been served, Kane announced, proudly to the gathering press. This verdict sends a clear message that no one can take advantage of Westridge's most respected citizens. But Miguel, watching from the shadows, whispered to himself, "This isn't over. I promise you, Mama, I'll find a way to make them listen." The courthouse emptied as evening shadows stretched across the marble floors. Miguel slipped away from the reporters and made his way to Westridge Public Library, where he could use their computers without being disturbed. His mind raced with possibilities. As he clutched the damaged phone in his pocket, "I need help," Miguel whispered to himself, sliding into a quiet corner desk. Mrs. Green, the elderly librarian who had tutored him in English for years, noticed his distress and brought him a cup of hot chocolate. "I heard about your mother," "Miguel," she said softly, "this town can be quick to judge people who don't belong to the right circles." Miguel nodded gratefully. "Mrs. Green, do you know anyone who can fix a broken phone? I think there might be something important on it." The librarian adjusted her reading glasses. "My grandson Trevor works with computers. He's studying digital forensics at the community college. Why don't I give him a call?" An hour later, Trevor arrived with a laptop and several cables. He examined the cracked Samsung carefully. "Where'd you find this?" "In the Hamiltons' garden, under a hedge near Blake Hamilton's pool house. It was the day after they accused my mom," Miguel explained. "I've been too afraid to show anyone until now." Trevor whistled low. "These models have automatic cloud backup. If they're set up for it, even if the screen doesn't work, we might be able to access the data." The young tech student connected the phone to his laptop and worked methodically, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Mrs. Green kept lookout, ensuring no one disturbed them. "Got something," Trevor announced after 40 minutes of tense silence. "There's a video file from 3 days before the brooch went missing." The screen flickered to life, showing Blake Hamilton's flushed face. He appeared drunk, laughing with someone off camera. "Don't worry about the money, Vince. I've got a plan. The old lady's brooch is worth $2 million easy. My gambling debt will be history by this time next week." Miguel's heart pounded. "Play it." Again, Trevor replayed the clip, capturing it to a flash drive. "This is serious evidence, Miguel, but it won't be enough by itself." Mrs. Green leaned in, her eyes sharp despite her years. "You need a good lawyer who'll take this seriously. My church friend Martha retired from the public defender's office last year. She still has connections." Miguel clutched the flash drive. "We only have 2 weeks before my mum's transfer to state prison. After that, it'll be almost impossible to reopen the case." "Then we better work fast," Mrs. Green said, picking up her phone. "Martha, it's Irene Green. I need a very big favor for a very deserving young man. How quickly can you get to the library?" Outside, a police cruiser slowly circled the parking lot. Blake Hamilton had reported a missing phone, and Officer Daniels had been instructed to keep an eye out for suspicious activity around town. Martha Donovan arrived at the library within 30 minutes, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, and carrying a worn leather briefcase that had seen decades of courtroom battles. Despite being 72, she moved with purpose and authority that commanded respect. "Show me what you've got," she said without preamble after introductions. Trevor played the video again, the incriminating words filling the small study room. Martha's eyes narrowed. "Blake Hamilton has powerful friends, including Judge Raymond himself. They play golf every Sunday." She tapped her chin thoughtfully. "We need more than just this video. Courts can dismiss electronic evidence as manipulated." "What about these?" Miguel pulled out a small shoebox from his backpack. Inside were dozens of meticulously organized bus tickets, receipts, and handwritten notes. "My mom kept everything. This receipt shows she was at the grocery store across town when the security cameras supposedly caught her near the safe." Martha examined the receipt. "The timestamp is 2:15 p.m. on May 7th, exactly when the prosecution claims she was stealing the brooch. The Hamilton security system logs showed someone accessed the safe at 2:17 p.m., Trevor added, pulling up the trial transcripts on his laptop. "She couldn't be in 2 places at once." Martha nodded. "This receipt could be our reasonable doubt, but we need to prove it's authentic." "The store has security cameras," Mrs. Green suggested. "If we can get that footage, I'll file an emergency motion in the morning," Martha decided. "Meanwhile, we need to visit Elena." "Miguel, did your mother ever mention anything unusual about the Hamiltons' home security?" "She said Mrs. Hamilton never changed the safe combination. It was her wedding anniversary, and Blake knew it too." The next morning, Martha and Miguel made their way to the county detention center. Eleanor's face lit up, seeing her son, then turned cautious, spotting Martha. "I'm here to help, Mrs. Alvarez," Martha explained. "We found some evidence that might clear your name, but we need more information." Elena hesitated, then leaned forward. 2 weeks before the brooch disappeared, I overheard Blake arguing with someone on the phone about money. He said he was drowning in debt and needed to liquidate something valuable fast. Did you tell your lawyer this? Elena's eyes filled with tears. My public defender barely spoke to me. He said circumstantial evidence wouldn't help against security footage. As they left the detention center, Martha spotted Assistant D.A. Kane entering with Officer Daniels. They were deep in conversation, and Kane looked troubled. Something's happening, Martha murmured. Kane doesn't usually handle post-conviction meetings personally. Miguel clutched the flash drive in his pocket. Do you think they know about the phone? We need to move quickly, Martha replied, pulling out her cell phone. I'm calling in some favors from an old friend at the Westridge Chronicle. It's time to apply some public pressure. The Westridge Chronicle office buzzed with activity when Martha and Miguel arrived. Frank Pearson, a veteran journalist with salt-and-pepper hair and deep laugh lines around his eyes, waved them into his cluttered office. Martha Donovan, haven't seen you storming into my office since that housing scandal in '05. Frank chuckled, clearing papers from chairs. What brings you back to the battlefield? Martha introduced Miguel and explained their situation. Frank's expression grew serious as he watched the video from the phone. Blake Hamilton involved in theft and framing an innocent woman? That's explosive. Frank removed his reading glasses. The Hamiltons practically own this town, and half our advertisers. The truth doesn't care about advertising dollars, Martha countered. Frank nodded slowly. I've always been suspicious of that family's squeaky clean image. Blake's gambling habit is an open secret among certain circles. He turned to Miguel. Son, are you prepared for what might happen if we run this story? These people play dirty when cornered. My mother is innocent, Miguel said firmly. I'll do whatever it takes. Frank picked up his phone. I know someone at the grocery store chain. Let's see about getting that security footage. By evening, things moved quickly. The grocery store manager provided footage showing Eleanor clearly visible at checkout at 2:16 p.m. on May 7th. Trevor enhanced the timestamp and saved it alongside the digital receipt data. Meanwhile, Frank published a carefully worded article raising questions about the investigation's thoroughness without directly accusing anyone. The headline read, Justice rushed. New evidence surfaces in Hamilton brooch case. The reaction was immediate. Judge Raymond called an emergency status conference for the following morning. Martha received the notice just as she was filing her motion for a new trial. They're panicking, she told Miguel over dinner at Mrs. Green's house, but we still need something more concrete to directly tie Blake to the theft. Mrs. Green poured more coffee. I remember Eleanor Hamilton at my garden club mentioning a special necklace cam she wore after a break-in last year. Said it looked like a normal pendant but recorded everything. Miguel's eyes widened. My mom mentioned Mrs. Hamilton never takes off her sapphire necklace, even during her afternoon naps when my mom cleaned the master bedroom. If that necklace recorded while it was being worn, Martha began. It might have captured something important on the day of the theft, Trevor finished. But how do we get access to those recordings? A knock at the door interrupted them. Officer Daniels stood on the porch, his expression grim. Miguel Alvarez? He asked. I need you to come with me to the station. Assistant D.A. Kane wants to speak with you about evidence tampering and obstruction of justice. Martha stepped forward. I'm his attorney. He's not going anywhere without me. The officer hesitated, then nodded curtly. Fine. Both of you then. Now. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the small interrogation room where Miguel and Martha waited. After 30 minutes, Assistant D.A. Kane entered with a manila folder and a scowl, followed by Chief Detective Sanders. Quite the commotion you've stirred up, young man, Kane said, sliding into the chair across from them. Tampering with evidence is a serious offense. That phone belonged to Blake Hamilton, and you took it from private property. Martha leaned forward. My client found abandoned property while legally on premises where he regularly accompanied his mother for work. There was no theft. That phone contains confidential information, Kane insisted. You mean incriminating information? Martha corrected. Like Blake Hamilton conspiring to steal his mother's brooch to cover gambling debts? Or is there something else on that phone you're worried about? Sanders shifted uncomfortably. Kane's face flushed. Those allegations are absurd. Then explain how Elena Alvarez could steal a brooch at 2:17 p.m. while simultaneously paying for groceries 5 miles across town, Martha challenged, sliding the time-stamped grocery footage across the table. This footage proves she has an alibi. Your office conveniently ignored. Kane examined the footage, his expression darkening. This could be doctored. The grocery chain's security system is tamper-proof and time-synced to the National Atomic Clock, Martha replied. As you well know, the Chronicle already has copies of everything. Miguel watched the prosecutor's confidence waver. I just want my mom to come home, he said quietly. She didn't do anything wrong. Sanders cleared his throat. Marshal, can I speak with you outside? The two men stepped out, leaving Miguel and Martha alone. Through the window in the door, they could see an intense discussion unfolding. They're realizing their case is falling apart, Martha whispered. When Kane returned, his demeanor had shifted. We're releasing you for now, but don't leave town. As they exited the station, Martha spotted Eleanor Hamilton emerging from a black Mercedes in the parking lot, looking distressed. Beside her stood a distinguished older man Martha recognized immediately. That's Judge Raymond's brother, William, she murmured to Miguel. He's the Hamiltons' personal attorney. Something big is happening. Miguel's phone vibrated with a text from Trevor. Breakthrough. Mrs. H's necklace cam auto-uploads to cloud. Friend at security company got access. Footage shows Blake and Safi. A room day of theft. Get back here now. Before they could leave, Eleanor Hamilton spotted them. To their surprise, she approached, twisting her hands nervously. You're the boy, she said to Miguel, the housekeeper's son. Yes, ma'am, Miguel replied cautiously. Blake came home drunk last night. He was shouting about a phone and confessing. Her voice broke. I've worn that necklace camera every day since my husband died. I never thought it would capture my own son. William Raymond quickly intervened. Eleanor, please. Not here. Mrs. Hamilton straightened her shoulders. No, William. I've been silent too long. I want to see all the evidence, now. Tension filled Mrs. Green's living room as Eleanor Hamilton watched the footage from her own necklace camera. The elegant woman's hands trembled as the video showed Blake entering her bedroom, looking around furtively, then opening the safe with practiced ease. The timestamp read 2:16 p.m. on May 7th, the exact time Elena was at the grocery store. I've been such a fool, Eleanor whispered, tears streaming down her face. All these years, I've been blind to what he's become. William Raymond paced nervously. Eleanor, this doesn't need to become public. We can handle this privately. Like, you handled the embezzlement charges against your nephew last year? Martha interjected. No, an innocent woman is sitting in jail right now because of this cover-up. Eleanor straightened her shoulders. William, call Judge Raymond. Tell him I want an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. I need to set this right. Blake is your son, William reminded her, and that's precisely why I must do this. Eleanor replied firmly. What kind of mother would I be if I let another woman's child suffer for my son's crimes? After the Hamiltons departed, Trevor arrived with more news. I found something else on Blake's phone, text messages to a pawnbroker in the next county. He was trying to sell the brooch. Has it already been sold? Miguel asked anxiously. I don't think so. The pawnbroker was hesitant about such a distinctive piece. The last message said to meet tonight at 9 p.m. Martha checked her watch. That's in 2 hours. Frank needs to hear this. The journalist arrived within minutes, bringing Chief Detective Sanders with him. I thought we might need official backup, Frank explained. Sanders reviewed all the evidence, his expression growing grimmer by the minute. This is damning, he admitted. Kane didn't show me half of this during the initial investigation because he was rushing to close the case, Martha said. A high-profile theft solved by pinning it on an undocumented housekeeper made for good. Headlines before his re-election campaign. Sanders made several calls, then turned to Miguel. I've dispatched officers to intercept Blake at the pawn shop, and I've ordered your mother's immediate release pending tomorrow's hearing. Miguel's eyes filled with tears. "She's coming home?" "Yes, son, tonight." 3 hours later, a police cruiser pulled up outside Mrs. Green's house. The door opened and Eleanor emerged, looking exhausted but free. Miguel ran down the steps and embraced his mother, both crying openly. Inside, Eleanor heard the full story of her son's determination and the unlikely alliance that had saved her. When she learned about Blake's arrest, caught red-handed with the brooch, she showed no anger, only sadness. "That poor woman," she said. Of Eleanor to discover such betrayal from her own child. Sanders approached Elena awkwardly. "On behalf of the department, I want to apologize. We failed you. Tomorrow's hearing will be just a formality," Martha assured her. "Your nightmare is over." Elena smiled through her tears, holding Miguel close. "No, my dear friend, thanks to my brave son, our nightmare has turned into a miracle." Sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Department 104 the next morning, illuminating a courtroom packed with spectators. Word had spread quickly through Westridge about the dramatic turn of events. Frank's article had made the front page, detailing the evidence that exonerated Elena and implicated Blake Hamilton. Judge Raymond looked ashen as he entered the courtroom. Gone was his previous arrogance, replaced by a subdued demeanor as he faced Eleanor Hamilton in the first row. "This emergency hearing will come to order," he announced, his voice lacking its usual thunder. "We are here to address new evidence in the matter of the state versus Elena Alvarez." Assistant DA Kane stood, clearing his throat. "Your Honor, in light of recent developments, the state moves to dismiss all charges against Elena Alvarez and vacate her conviction." A murmur swept through the courtroom. Judge Raymond nodded. "So ordered. Ms. Alvarez, you are fully exonerated, and the court offers its sincere apologies for this miscarriage of justice." Elena, seated between Miguel and Martha, dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "arrest warrants have been issued for Blake Hamilton on charges of grand larceny, obstruction of justice, and filing a false police report." Eleanor Hamilton sat with dignity, her back straight, despite the whispers around her. When Judge Raymond called for additional statements, she rose to her feet. "Your Honor, if I may," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I wish to personally apologize to Ms. Alvarez. She served our family faithfully for 7 years, and in return, she was betrayed not only by my son, but by a system that was too quick to judge her based on her status rather than facts." Eleanor turned to face Elena. "I cannot undo the harm that has been done, but I have established a trust fund in your name for $250,000, what you would have earned working for our family until retirement. Additionally, I'm creating a scholarship foundation for children of immigrant workers in Westridge, with Miguel as its first recipient, if he wishes." Tears flowed freely throughout the courtroom. Frank Pearson scribbled notes furiously while Martha squeezed Elena's hand. Judge Raymond then addressed the court once more. "In light of these events, I am recusing myself from all pending cases involving immigrant defendants and will be taking a leave of absence pending a judicial review of my recent rulings." As the proceedings concluded, Mrs. Green approached with, "Trevor, the Chronicle wants to do a feature story on the boy who cracked the case with a broken phone." Miguel shook his head. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us together." Outside on the courthouse steps, reporters gathered around Elena and Miguel. One thrust a microphone forward. "Ms. Alvarez, how does it feel to be exonerated?" Elena looked at her son with pride. "It feels like America finally worked the way it's supposed to, where truth matters more than power, and justice is possible even for people like me." 6 months later, autumn leaves drifted across the newly dedicated Justice Plaza outside the Westridge Courthouse. The small town had changed in ways few could have imagined that fateful summer day, when Judge Raymond's gavel had crashed down so harshly. Elena stood before a crowd of community members, cutting a ribbon to officially open the Westridge Immigration Legal Aid Center, funded largely by Eleanor Hamilton's generous donation. Miguel stood proudly at his mother's side, now a high school senior with college acceptance letters beginning to arrive. And when darkness seems complete, Eleanor addressed the gathering, her English careful but confident, that is when we most need to search for light. My son found that light in a broken phone and the kindness of neighbors who chose truth over convenience. Martha, Donovan had come out of retirement permanently, serving as the center's lead attorney. Frank Pearson had won a regional journalism award for his coverage of the case. Mrs. Green and Trevor had started a digital literacy program teaching seniors and immigrants how technology could protect their rights. After the ceremony, Eleanor approached Elena privately. The heart of Athena brooch has been in our family for generations, she said, opening a velvet box to reveal the stunning diamond and sapphire piece. I'd like to donate it to the museum with a new plaque telling the true story of how justice was restored. With your permission, of course. Elena smiled. Truth is the greatest treasure. Yes, that would be wonderful. Judge Raymond had resigned after the judicial review, found patterns of bias in dozens of his rulings, many of which were now being re-examined. Blake had accepted a plea deal, serving time while receiving treatment for gambling addiction. Assistant DA Kane had lost his re-election bid to a reform candidate who promised greater scrutiny of evidence and protection for vulnerable defendants. That evening, Miguel sat on the porch of their new small house, purchased with part of Eleanor's trust fund, looking at the stars while Elena brought out cups of hot chocolate. I still can't believe everything that's happened, Mama, he said softly. Elena wrapped an arm around his shoulders. Sometimes life gives us great challenges to reveal our greatest strengths. You never stop believing, Mijito. I was so scared when I found that phone, Miguel admitted. I almost threw it away. But you didn't, Elena reminded him. You chose courage over fear. That made all the difference. As they sat together in comfortable silence, Miguel's phone buzzed with a text from Trevor about their weekend plans to help another family facing deportation. The work of justice continued. You know, Elena said, gazing at the peaceful neighborhood, sometimes what seems like the end is really just the beginning of something beautiful. That day in court when the judge shouted, I would rot in jail, that wasn't our ending after all. Miguel nodded, squeezing his mother's hand. It was just the first page of a much better story.